So you want to be a dungeon master?
That's great. We're here to help. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Justin. This week, we're welcoming the weapon-wielding warrior whiz, the fighter. More specifically, we'll be covering all the subclasses not found in the 2014 Player's Handbook. From the Sword Coast to Wildemount and everywhere in between, we've got 7 subclasses to show you that the fighter has way more to offer than, I run up and hit the monster. Does a 22 hit? Boring. Let's add some fighter flavor, gang. Let's get into it. But first... Who's gonna be my first? Let's talk about weapons for a moment, shall we?
Let's do it.
Obviously, there's a bunch of weapons in D&D, different types of weapons and such, but it can get old with the weapons that are offered if you're playing for years and years, right? So let's talk about what's a weapon. We'll start here. What's a weapon that you would love to see in the game that you haven't seen at least?
Yeah. So one of the most interesting weapons to me in like fighting styles and stuff is the sai. It's for the uninitiated, it's the little fork things that Raphael, the Mutant Ninja Turtle, uses.
Yes.
That's the best way that I can use to describe it. It's a 3-pronged weapon, but it's typically dual wielded, and it's kind of about the size of like a dagger or a short sword, but it has a lot of versatility to it.
Yeah.
That just would be really nice to see reflected in the game.
For sure. Yeah. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, is it kind of like at least the middle prong or whatever? Is it almost like more ice pick like in the sense
kind of
like it's not necessarily like a bladed weapon like a dagger would be? It's
not really a bladed weapon. So actually, like, the sai is a farm implement that was repurposed.
Classic.
So a lot of traditional Chinese weapons are traditional Asian weapons are basically repurposed things. Like the kama is just a small scythe that has been repurposed into an actual weapon. Things of that nature, where they were one thing, but weapons got banned for a really long time by the government, and so the people who were tired of being abused by the military started picking up just whatever was around. Like tonfa is just a miller's. It's like a keystone thing to hold a mill wheel in place.
Right.
So a lot of those weapons are really cool. Tonfa would be another fun one to have in the game.
Oh, heck yeah. But there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many. For me, I was so tempted to pick, and I hope I'm getting this right. I know it's one of those things that has like an English translation name, and then I'm sure has like a more accurate, authentic name, right? But I think it's called like a meteor hammer or something like that. It's
yeah.
You know, a long rope or a chain,
dope.
And then having some sort of device at the end of it, whether it's like a weight or a small dagger like a Scorpion uses in Mortal Kombat is just one example. But that was my first thought.
So the bladed version of that is called a rope dart.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, so it is their cousins. That's basically the same thing. You get heavy thing, put heavy thing on end of string, swing heavy thing at bad guy.
Yeah, and change the direction of it by wrapping it around yourself, and it's just when you see somebody who's proficient in that, it is beautiful. It is like so artistic in its use. I find that to be really, really fun. But I chose the 3-piece staff.
That's a really good one too.
Yeah, I've always been into it just because it's so interesting to me. You know, as somebody who's white as hell, I just am like, whoa, that's crazy. It's a giant nunchuck, or it's a broken ass staff. Like, that's crazy that they have this. And I just find it to be really interesting. And obviously there's a character in Bleach who uses a 3-piece staff that I remember being like, oh, this is dope as hell. And then in Jujutsu Kaisen, there is a very specific and insanely powerful cursed object that they use called Playful Cloud that they use in that show, and it's really fucking cool. And I like the versatility of it, and it just seems like one of those weapons similar to the meteor hammer or the rope dart, where it's like you look at it and you're like, okay, I could figure this out. And it's like, no. The difference between somebody just picking it up who's like athletic or decent at shit and an expert is like mountains to heaven. Like, it's so different.
There's a martial arts movie. It's got Jet Li in it. I think it's called Fearless or something along those lines. There's a fight between an established samurai and a Shaolin monk, and the samurai type guy, I don't think he was actually a samurai, but he was a sword wielder, and challenged Jet Li to a fight, and Jet Li's using this cross-sectional staff, and basically Jet Li disarms the guy and then follows up getting disarmed, and Jet Li picks up the sword and the other guy picks up the 3-piece staff and promptly goes beating himself up with it because he doesn't know how to use it.
Right.
And so like anytime he goes to make an attack, it winds up getting deflected at just the right way, where he's hitting himself in the arm, he smacked himself in the head a couple of times. Eventually the fight goes, Jet Li takes the sword and offers it back to the guy so he stops beating himself up. They trade weapons and they finish out the fight.
Heck yeah.
It's a really great movie. If you haven't seen it, it's a really good one.
Yeah, there's a lot of good Jet Li movies. When like
Jet Li's a very talented martial artist.
100%. But I'm especially when they're like Jet Li movies that like are considered like foreign films, like when they're in another language, like the movie Hero with Jet Li
so much.
Dude, that scene where it's all in black and white and somebody's playing an instrument and the two of them have like a mental match.
The mind battle,
Oh, that is one of my favorite fight scenes in all of cinema.
Is so good.
Yeah.
And then like when he's like cutting through the raindrops and stuff, such a cool scene.
It's such a cool scene.
There's some cool scene.
Really good. Now we're getting off topic, but there's some really cool fight scenes in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon that
absolutely
not only are good martial arts scenes where you're just watching it and you can't help but have those like deep, almost like borderline toxic masculinity things where you're like, fuck yes, get him. You know what I mean? But also, they're like beautiful storytelling moments. Like the first time that the spoilers, the young girl who steals the really powerful sword. She's so inexperienced, but she has a superior weapon, and she's fighting. I want to say it's Michelle Wan. I forget exactly, but she's a superior swordsman, but has a worse quality weapon. And the storytelling of how they fight each other, and then later on in the movie, the connection between sword fighting and calligraphy. That is a beautiful movie. Ugh.
Yeah,
we could do this all day. Maybe we'll do. We'll do a bonus action, and we'll talk about like fight scenes in movies as inspo.
Hell yeah. I'm all
That's
about
a good
it.
idea.
I love it. I could sit and talk about that for hours,
Hell
dude.
Yeah.
There's so many good ones. The Protector, Ong Bak. I mean, we don't even have to go to weapons movies. We could go to just straight up martial arts. We haven't even touched on Bruce Lee. We haven't talked about Jackie Chan.
Bringing a big ass footprint. Yeah, hell yeah, dude. I'm into it. We'll do that. Okay. Hey gang, did you know we have a Patreon now? Well, we do. In the episode description, you'll find the link. We have 3 different tiers available with all kinds of extra access or content. For example, you could have listened to this episode already, or you could get access to bonus action, our extra episodes where we talk about stuff like favorite spells, monsters, we go over multi-class builds, homebrew material, and more. And that's not all, because there's going to be more and more stuff coming out as So You Want to Be a Dungeon Master continues to grow. So go check it out, and then come back and finish this episode. The next part of this, but first, quickly,
back to it.
If you're a new DM, how would you add or homebrew a new weapon or bring flavor to an existing weapon? So, like, if a player comes to a newer DM and says, "Hey, I want to use a 3-piece staff. I want to use a sai," how would you do that? How would you?
So, for the sai, I think I would have it do one of two things. Because the traditional use of a sai, you see a lot of people, they grab it at the handle bit, but that's not typically how you would wield that. You generally grab it in between the prongs so that you can flip it back and forth.
Yeah.
And use the handle as a punching tool, or at the pointy bit, obviously, as a stabbing tool, or what I would do it is give it maybe a disarm.
Yeah.
Or
that's what I was
some
thinking.
form, or maybe an AC bonus, like just a +1 to your AC, because
That's a cool
you're
idea.
using your weapons as basically a shield.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be as good as using a shield, but you could still technically be dual wielding and have that +1.
Yeah. Like if you're dual wielding, you get a +1 with 2 psi. Yeah, I like that a lot, because it's what we're doing is we're not adding anything too complicated.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because you could, your first step, if you wanted to add psi, you could literally just do anything a dagger can do.
Right.
As your first step. And then you could get more complicated with it. Same thing with like 3-piece staff. Just use everything that a quarterstaff does. Is like the first step. And then you can make it more complicated and adding in little different things that a 3-piece staff is capable of. Maybe in a little bit of extra reach or something. Like, there's options. But I agree. I think for a new DM, it could be as simple as just reflavoring an existing weapon.
Absolutely. That's the easiest, super easiest way, is just pick a weapon that you think is comparable. Okay, the weapon that you want to be is technically this weapon mechanically.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done that a lot, even in the sense of, hey, you're at the shop, at the blacksmith shop, they have a whip, but at the very end of the whip, it has little shards of metal embedded into the whip, so now it does a D6 instead of a D4. Wow.
Right.
And it's just like, that's pretty cool. I didn't do much. I changed the dice type by 1, but now it's this cool item because it's flavored cool. So there's a lot of options out there for you guys. But let's get into fighters, because again, there's 7. Now, one of them is let me be more specific. Some of them are not as good as others. One is actually garbage, and we'll talk about it briefly, but let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So we're going to start off with the Arcane Archer. This is your... the easiest way to explain this is like an Eldritch Knight, but everything is focused on archery. Right? That's kind of the vibe. Like, you don't...
Yeah.
Except you don't get spell slots, so it's actually way worse. But that's the idea, is that you're getting some uses of magic, but everything is infused into these magical arrows and stuff. But so at 3rd level, we start off with Arcane Archer Lore. So first off, you gain proficiency in either Arcana or Nature. Extra proficiencies are never a bad thing, but okay. You also can learn either the Prestidigitation or the Druidcraft cantrip. A lot of fun, a lot of flavor, out of combat, some fun uses. That's cool. You also get the most important feature of this entire subclass, which is Arcane Shot. So right at 3rd level, you get to learn 2 options, and you get to learn additional options as you level up. You get an extra one at 7th, then 10th, 15th, and by 18th, you'll know 6 different Arcane Shot options. So you can think of those like, you know, the Battle Master's maneuvers. You can think of it, you know, anything where you gain extra options and shit like that. It's, you know, meta magic, whatever you want to think of it as. It's kind of like that. You're just gaining different options. But no matter what, you start with 2 uses and you die with 2 uses. So that is a little bit of a downside, in my opinion. I think you could up it to at least 4, maybe. I don't know. You do regain these uses on a short or a long rest. The other thing is, you can only use 1 Arcane Shot option per turn using either a short or a long bow. Now, all of the text that I found, it does specify short or long bow. Not once in here does it mention like the ability to use a crossbow. I think that's one of those things where I'd be so hard pressed as a DM to be like, you must use a longbow. Crossbows don't work. Like, I don't care, man. What? Of course you can use a crossbow. That's crazy. But technically, whatever. Now, one thing I will say that is nice, similar to like a Divine Smite in 2014, you get to decide to use that Arcane Shot when it hits. Unless it is one of the Arcane Shots that doesn't involve an attack roll.
Right.
Now, when you look up this particular, like we're using Wikidot, if you look up this particular subclass, at the bottom of the subclass, it'll list out all of the Arcane Shot options. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in total. So there's only 8. By the very end, 18th level, you'll have 6 out of 8. So they do all different kinds of things. The names of them kind of give away a lot of what they're able to do. Banishing arrow, beguiling arrow, bursting arrow, enfeebling, grasping, piercing, seeking, shadow. So some of them, it's as simple as they just do, a lot of them will like do extra damage right off the bat. And then there's often like a saving throw involved, which is based on 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier. So
rough.
Okay, that can be a little rough. So like,
yeah, but and the names themselves of these different shots are pretty self-explanatory as far as what they do. I mean, we could sit and go through the spell text of every single one of these, but you know what a banishing arrow is going to do without having to really look at it. It's going to be saving throw. They're going to get banished.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's like interesting verbiage on things because like the banishing arrow doesn't actually banish you. It just, your speed is 0 and you're incapacitated, but you're still 100% there. But it's still a charisma saving
banish
throw.
your target to a harmless location in the Feywild.
Oh, duh. I didn't read that part. I just wrote while banished in this way, its speed is 0 and it is incapacitated.
Yep.
You're right.
So it's in the Fey. It goes to the Feywild. It does technically banish them for a turn. It's not a full banishment spell, but it is.
Which is another interesting thing. The fact that you can only use 2 of these between short rests or long rests, and a lot of the effects that have those sorts of things, like Shadow Arrow, can make it so that you're unable to see anything farther than 5 feet away from you. If you fail the Wisdom save, it only lasts until the end of your next turn. So still, I'm not saying that these wouldn't be helpful. Of course they would be, right?
Yeah. But
however,
I mean, they should. It should
like,
be like almost like key. These are like key abilities for a monk.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know,
it's just interesting that you only get 2.
You only get 2. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's absolutely crazy.
So
I mean, they already have it restricted to once per turn. I don't see the problem with giving them more uses of this arcane shot, especially since you'll have by the end 6 different types of arrows that you can do. It just makes sense to give them more.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like I said, a lot of these subclasses, Arcane Archer included, the flavor is there. The idea is there.
Right.
Like it's such a cool idea. This like, you know, this idea of like Hawkeye in the perches shooting these like really specific types of arrows to do different things depending on the target and what you're trying to do. It's awesome.
Pull out the boxing glove arrow.
It's just a little, a little difficult. Now, for multi-class, I mean, hey, we all know that Fighter is one of those classes that is so great for multi-classing, right?
Absolutely.
3 levels of this.
Especially with it
that's dope.
Being your intelligence modifier, it would make sense to put this with maybe a wizard or an artificer. An artificer would be fun with this.
It also depends on like your build and stuff like that. Like we have at our home game a ranger who technically is a strength-based ranger. I mean, their dexterity is decent, but like their intelligence is, I think, a 20. Like it's one of the highest in the party. And this would be nuts for them to just have this. Granted, it is 3 levels, so in a campaign, taking 3 levels of something it's not just that little like, oh, I'm just gonna dip in. It's like, no, 3 levels. You're spending 4 months getting to this point, but still.
Yeah.
So that's the Arcane Archer. Let's move on. A lot of cool things.
Well, no, we didn't go. We just went over the arcane shots.
No, I know. I just mean moving on from arcane shots.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, you said moving on from Arcane Archer. I was like, wait. Wait. We still have a bunch more to talk about here.
Yes, we do. Because at 7th level, you get Magic Arrow. Hey, guess what that fucking does?
What?
A non-magical
arrow. Does it turn
your
arrows magical?
It sure does, Taylor. But that magic does fade after it hits or misses. So, hey, this whole ability, it depends on when you get magic items to your players. Could be awesome. Could be completely useless. In my campaigns, this would be useless.
Yeah.
But at 7th level, you also get Curving Shot. This is a really fun ability. I like this a lot. When you miss, you get to use a bonus action to re-roll against a different target within 60 feet of your original target. So that's so cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Really
so
cool.
Basically, it's like hitting them with the ricochet.
Yeah. It's Wanted. It's that movie Wanted with Angelina Jolie.
Got to curve the bullet.
Yes. It's exactly that. It's very, very cool. I like that a lot. 60 feet is a huge range, so that's really awesome. It uses your bonus action, feels like a very appropriate action economy. I like this ability a lot.
Absolutely.
Then at 15th...
I like that there's no restrictions to how many times you can use this ability, too. It just says when you miss.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's awesome.
It's only limited by... Obviously, you only have one bonus action, so... Obviously, you can only do this once per turn, but still, like, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Because you get to reroll, so it's not a guarantee, right? So I like this a lot. It's perfectly balanced, in my opinion. But at 15th level, we get Ever Ready Shot. If you roll initiative and you're out of arcane shots, you regain 1 use, which is 50% of them, because you only get 2 ever.
Okay, but still though.
Yeah, it's rough. And then there isn't like a distinct 18th level thing that you get. However, every single arcane shot gets an 18th level boost.
Yes.
Which for almost every single one of them, I'm looking at them really quickly, almost every single one of them just doubles the damage. So if it used to do a d6, or like the Banishing Arrow does 0 damage, now it does 2d6. Every single other one at some point does 2d6-ish amount of damage. That goes up to 4d6. So that kind of vibe. So it just does a little bit of extra damage at 18th level, which that's rough, buddy. But
yeah.
So Arcane Archer, such a fucking cool idea. Just kind of dropped the ball a little bit on its uses and things, but
we should have like a bonus action of fixing all of these broken ones.
We should, because they're cool. They're just mechanically, they don't back up how cool they are.
Just a little bit off. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a great idea,
Speaking
because
of
the
things
next
that
one,
are just off.
This next
one. Oh boy.
It's another one that, like, I remember reading this and being like, Banneret, I've never fucking heard of that subclass. And now I know why, because mechanically, trash.
Absolutely.
Flavor-wise, like, the idea of this is so cool. It just, again, misses the mark.
Yeah, so the vibes of this one are basically like the banner holder of the army type of deal. You've got this kind of rallying force, like a I mean, most of the time it's just a giant flag. But for stuff like this, I mean, I don't know if there's really a whole lot of talk about whether or not you have to have this crazy flag with you or not. But it really is. It's just that idea of, hey, everybody rally here. Let's go take it to them. You get like a rallying cry and some other stuff. But all of the things that you get for this, mechanically super lackluster.
Yeah, big time lackluster. A lot of it is just like, hey, as a fighter, you get abilities like Second Wind, Action Surge, and Indomitable. And at the various levels where you upgrade to your subclass, it's just like when you use Second Wind, your other team members get these little boosts. And it's a cool idea. It's a very cool idea. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I guess.
All right, everybody gets 4 HP back.
Yeah, it just once again is every time you action surge, choose a creature within 60 feet of you, they can use their reaction to make a weapon attack. Wow. Okay. So never action surge if you don't have a creature within 60 feet of you, and if that creature doesn't use weapon attacks, then it's wasted. So it's just like a lot of circumstantial kind of stuff. Like it, but that would make sense if you were the banner holder of an army. That would make sense.
Absolutely.
Then it changes the meaning a little bit. So like this is one of those things. It's from the Sword Coast Adventures guide, so it has like very distinct lore around this subclass, which is why like it probably makes a little bit more sense. But even then, still mechanically, I think it falls on its face. Yeah. But anyway, let's get into the good ones.
Yeah, let's get into the good ones. So the next one is the Cavalier. This is basically your typical mounted knight type person. So starting at 3rd level, you're going to get proficiency in either animal handling, history, insight, performance, or persuasion. Alternatively, you can learn another language. You also get the ability Born to the Saddle, where you have advantage on saving throws to avoid falling off your mount. If you do fall off your mount and descend less than 10 feet, you land on your feet. And then mounting and dismounting is 5 feet rather than half your movement. So you are just a natural riding combatant. Obviously, this would pair extremely well with the mounted combatant feat. But moving on. The last thing that you get at level 3 is the unwavering mark. Starting at 3rd level, you can menace your foes and basically mess up their attacks by kind of charging at them with the horse doing the little rear thing with like picking the hooves up. But if you hit a creature with melee weapon attack, you mark that creature, and then while it's within 5 feet of you, they have disadvantage on any attack roll that doesn't target you. Also, if a creature marked by you deals damage to someone other than you, you can make a special melee weapon attack against that creature as a bonus action on your next turn. You have advantage on that attack roll, and if it hits, the attack's weapon does extra damage equal to half your fighter level. So a little bit of extra damage. You're also putting them at disadvantage, kind of doing like a little covering maneuver. And regardless of the number of creatures you mark, you can make the special attack a number of times equal to your strength modifier. And you regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest. So, yeah, I like that a lot. I do like this whole mounted knight is kind of not the thing that I'm thinking of. Like a cavalier is more like, I'm thinking of like a Civil War style, like cloth armor. Not so much the heavy plate, but more quick, more like a faster, more nimble, like light infantry on horseback rather than a huge mounted knight with a big lance and all the big plate armor and stuff like that. Granted, while you could have all that stuff because you're a fighter, cavalier is kind of a more nimble version of a full knight in my mind.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you go to Bing and you just type in cavalier, the first thing you're going to get is a lot of like spaniels, like the dog. And then you type in the word soldier after cavalier, then you'll get a couple things.
Yeah.
That's my mistake. That's what happens.
Yeah. So, moving on to 7th level, you get the warding maneuver. If you or another creature within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack, you can use your reaction and roll a d8 if you're wielding a melee weapon or a shield.
Which you should be.
Which you should be
God,
as a fighter. You can add that d8 to the target's AC against that attack. If it still hits, they have resistance to the damage, and then you can use this a number of times equal to your Constitution modifier. I like that we're using different modifiers for different things here.
It's really interesting. I do like it. I think it. I mean, with a fighter, I mean, it's one of those things.
Strength and Constitution, those are pretty important stats for a fighter in general.
For most fighters, it's like the strength thing is the only thing where it's like, it's a little interesting because it's like, oh, I guess I'm going to be a strength fighter.
Right.
If I'm being cavalier, I guess I'm going strength. Whereas like sometimes I want to be a dex fighter, but
you're not wrong.
Maybe not with this build.
I think though you still get a minimum of 1. Yeah, you do get a minimum of 1. So no matter what, you're getting a couple uses of that unwavering mark. But yeah, so warding maneuver, really helpful for protecting your friends. You can also use this on yourself, which is really dope. Yeah. It's a potential higher than shield type of deal. And no matter what, you're getting resistance, even if it does hit. That's huge.
I do like that. I like that backup just in case. Because this also can work for your mount. Which is really cool.
Yeah, because it's just another creature. Yeah. So at 10th level, you get the hold the line feature. If a creature moves within 5 feet of you or move while they're within your reach, you can get an opportunity attack against them. If you hit, their speed is 0 until the end of their current turn. So,
it's dope.
Kind of a free Sentinel feat, a little bit.
Pretty much, except it's the if they move 5 feet or more while within their reach. So you know how like so often, because we because the way D&D is set up with the grids and the maps, it's like there's a level of metagaming that is just how you play the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like moving. We all know that it's like, okay, instead of me, I'll just move my token around the bad guy.
Right.
This would still provoke.
That's really cool.
Which I like, yeah.
Yeah, so they could potentially move into your space thinking that they'll be safe as long as they don't leave your reach, but they'll go to move around you and bam, you're stuck in place now.
It's not out of my reach, it's within my reach also.
Right.
So it's right. I like that. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. Moving on to 15th level, you get the Ferocious Charger feat. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line before hitting with an attack, the target must succeed on a strength save or get knocked prone. The save is actually based off of your strength modifier here, as opposed to intelligence from the arcane stuff. Makes sense. And you can do this once per turn. Mm-hmm. That's really good. Really good, obviously this is leaning in. Right. You don't need your mount to do this. It's just move 10 feet in a straight line before hitting. So this is just barreling into the other person. And then technically, I mean, you're at 15th level here. So you've got a whole bunch of attacks at this point. And also, so your first attack is going to be, okay, cool, try and knock him on the ground. And then after that, you've got advantage on him for the rest of your attacks.
Yeah. And at 15th level, your proficiency bonus is a 5. Presumably, you have because fighters have so many ASI/feat opportunities, you damn well better have a 5 in strength. So we're talking about a DC of 18. So
yeah,
pretty good.
That's
pretty
not
good. Strength is
not a small number.
No, it is not. Strength is like, it depends on the monster you're fighting, because like some monsters just naturally have like really high strengths, but it's still going to be awesome. Because even monsters who have very high strengths often don't have like proficiency in strength saves. Right. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Unless you're like a dragon, like certain legendary monsters have like insane things where it's like +8 to this, and you're like, fuck. But even then, they have to roll a 10 or higher.
It's still,
So it's a cool ability.
It is a really good one, and I do like you said, you don't have to be on your mount to do this, although it would be very helpful. Starting at 18th level, you get the Vigilant Defender feat. In combat, you get a special reaction that you can take once on every creature's turn except your own. You can use this special reaction only to make an opportunity attack, and you can't use it on the same turn that you take your normal reaction. So this is just, you get more opportunity attacks, if I'm reading that right.
Yeah.
So you no longer have to worry about the action economy of, hey, do I use my reaction for the opportunity attack on this creature, or do I use my reaction for a different thing?
Like the warding maneuver at 7th level thing?
Yeah.
You can use your reaction for that, but then if there's 5 creatures all surrounding you and they all provoke, you can hit every single one.
Absolutely.
Insane, dude. That's nuts.
Yeah. Yep.
Not to mention, that doubles up with Hold the Line.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you're getting all kind of attacks. That's crazy. This is a really good. I really like the subclass just for how many attacks you get.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's a very cool one.
It's a really, really cool one.
Not to mention, I truly want to play a character who has a designated mount. I really, really want to do that. I'm very curious about how I would do that if I was the DM and I had one player at the table who had this like mount and all this kind of stuff. Like, how do I figure out how to balance that and make sure that they're not like, you know what I mean? Like, if the other players don't have mounts, like how does that all balance out? Not just mechanically and combat wise, but also like travel wise. One of you's on a horse. So like, I find that to be such an interesting thing to figure out. I know that I've seen it before in actual plays. There was like a goblin who had it was modified based on the rules as written, but it was like a displacer beast as a mount.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
But yeah, something to think about. I like this one a lot.
I do too. Not quite as much as the next one, but I'll let you take that. I'll let you take the
thank you
reins
very
on that.
much. I'm gonna go take it from here. The Echo Knight. Echo. So flippin' cool. This is one of my favorites. It's the only type of fighter that I've ever played in a game for a one shot, and I didn't even use it to the fullest of its capabilities, because when I'm playing one shots with people, especially like on stream, I am nice because I'm a fellow DM. So I'm like, I'm not gonna go balls to the wall. You know what I mean? Come on.
Right.
But it's so cool. So let me go over this like third level stuff, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the character that I made. But
sure.
Because my whole build was like, I wanted to show that a human fighter could be just as dope as anything else. So at third level, you get Manifest Echo. There's no limit on how many times you can use this. Bonus action to create an echo within 15 feet to an unoccupied space. That echo lasts until you dismiss it as a bonus action. You make another echo, or if you become incapacitated. The echo has an AC of 14 plus your proficiency bonus, so right off the bat at 16. It has 1 hit point and is immune to all conditions. It uses your saving throw stuff, and it does occupy its space. So a villain cannot move through it. Unless they have like an ability to do so, but it occupies its space.
Getting heavy Noob Saibot vibes from this.
Big time. Huge Noob Saibot vibes. Absolutely. Yeah, another Mortal Kombat reference. When you said Sai earlier in the butt first, all I could think of was I think it's Melina specifically is the girl ninja who has size and also razor sharp teeth. Anyway. So on your turn, no action required, you can move your echo 30 feet. Incredible. If your echo is further than 30 feet from you at the end of your turn, it does get destroyed. But don't worry, next turn, bonus action, make another one. So easy. Now, the echo can do a bunch of cool things. First of all, you can spend a bonus action to spend 15 feet of your movement and just swap places with your echo. Crazy. Absolutely bonkers. Getting close to the monster, make a bunch of cool attacks, bonus action, get out of there, and sacrifice your echo. But you actually kind of don't even need to do that, because when you attack, you get to choose each individual attack, whether it comes from you or your echo, and it uses all the same stats. So cool. And you, if like a monster leaves the threatened area of your echo, you can use your reaction to do an opportunity attack.
Crazy.
So your echo doesn't get their own
like a
opportunity
body
attack,
double.
But
yes,
it's so cool. And then you also get Unleash Incarnation. When you take the attack action, you get to make an extra attack from your echo. Now, this extra attack does have to be from the echo, so keep that in mind.
Right.
But you get to do this a number of times equal to your Constitution modifier, and then you regain them on a long rest. So, 11th level, you're making 3 attacks, 4 attacks if you include this echo attack.
Right.
So that's so freaking insane.
That's amazing.
The really incredible thing about this is all of the potential role play and backstory stuff that can come into this. Why do you have an echo? What is the relationship between you and your echo? Is your echo truly, because I've seen some people do it where it's literally just a shadow, like a duplicate of themselves, and it has no personality or sentience. There's nothing to say that you can't add sentience to your shadow. They did it in NADPOD with during what was that season with Hank and Shank? Because Shank shadow Hank. Gosh. So they did that. When I played an Echo Knight, my character, I took up the chef feat. So I was a chef. Okay. And my whole purpose for adventuring was I got tired of classical culinary school, and I wanted to adventure and write, like very much like Delicious in Dungeon. I wanted to write a cookbook for adventurers by adventurers, how to eat monsters, essentially, right? And my echo was my sous chef.
Oh, nice.
It was just
yeah.
so much fun. And it was really fun too because like
Yes,
I
chef.
made it exactly right. I made it so that my character had a French accent because fancy cooking that's the stereotype. But then my Echo, my sous chef, was like, "Yeah, all right, chef, you got it, bud." And it was just so funny.
That is amazing. I love it.
So yeah, there's so much opportunity here. Again, once you create that Echo, it just lasts. So like you can use this out of combat. There's so many cool opportunities, not to mention the teleportation and like, it's so fucking cool. And that's just all at 3rd level. Let's continue. At 7th level.
That's wild.
At 7th level, you get Echo Avatar. Take an action and you can see through your Echo's eyes and ears, or see and hear through your Echo's eyes and ears. You are deafened and blinded while doing this, so just like familiars
Just
and
warg into
all those
it,
kind of
yeah.
things. Yeah. You can sustain this for up to 10 minutes and end it at any time without using an action. And while you're in this state, because remember before 30-foot max
30
distance,
feet, right.
while you're in this state, the Echo can be up to 1,000 feet away.
Damn.
So cool. 10th level. Yeah, go for it.
There's a game called Styx, Shards of Darkness or something like that. It's you play this little goblin dude, and you can make like this same kind of thing, these echoes, and then use them to basically go bait guards, and the guards will go, "Oh, what's that thing over there?" And then you switch back to yourself, and the thing just turns into a puddle of goo, and they're like, "What the hell just happened?"
Hell yeah.
It's that's this ability right here. It's so cool.
Yeah. So cool.
Because that's what would happen basically. You go up to 1,000 feet away and then you go back to your own body, but this thing's now more than 30 feet. Poof, gone.
Yeah. Have it run around a corner so that they don't even see it poof.
Right.
Because at higher levels, if I'm the DM, I'm going to be a dick about it, and I'm going to be like, these guards have seen magic. They know something's up.
Right.
So even though, yes, you got them to walk away from the door for a little bit, they're rushing back. They know something's up.
Right.
That's me as a DM, though, thinking about it. And that's higher levels. That's like when you're starting to get a little nitpicky.
the player shenanigans have gone too far.
Exactly. Like at a
You
certain
gotta rein
point,
them
you're
in.
like, not every guard is an absolute dickhead.
Right.
Like some guards know that magic exists. Like, what are we doing here? I don't know. I keep hearing a quacking noise, and then there's just this wooden duck. What the fuck is this about? So 10th level, Shadow Martyr. Before an attack roll you see is made, you can use a reaction to have your Echo throw itself to a 5-foot spot in front of the targeted creature. The attack is made against the Echo instead, which only has 1 hit point, but still has like an AC, right? Maybe it misses.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only do this once per short or long rest. Now, yes, you're probably thinking, some people who are listening, wow, only 1 time between short and long rest. That's crazy because it's just going to kill your Echo. Da-da-da. Well, here's the thing. You can always bring your Echo back as a bonus action. There's no limits on 100%. That. It's insane. The thing is, there's no range on this. You just have to see the attack.
That's wild. I didn't even realize that. That's insane.
There's no range.
You can use your reaction to teleport the Echo to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the target creature.
Yeah, there's no range.
Wild.
You just have to see the attack. So it's absolutely bananas. Just so cool. It's just overall, it's such a cool ability. It's exactly like
so.
It sounds.
Would you
Shadow
be a stick? Getting to the stickler bit of this, right? So it says before the attack roll is made. So if this is like, say, a surprise round or something.
Well, surprises. If you're going by 2014 rules, surprises
right.
You can't use reactions.
Right.
So that would be a thing. And it has to be an attack roll. It says before an attack roll, you can see is made. So I would count that as like, as soon as I, the DM, say, the dragon is going to lash out at this character, you need to call it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Fair
like,
enough.
even if it's like, oh, you wasted it because I was going to roll a nat 1 anyway. Like, tough shit. You used it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how that goes. So that's how I read that, at least.
Okay.
Then 15th level, another bonkers ability, Reclaim Potential. When your echo is destroyed by taking damage, you gain temporary hit points equal to 2d6 plus your con modifier. As long as you don't already have temp hit points.
So this doesn't override temp hit points. Like if you were, say, had like 2, you couldn't drop the other temporary and pick this up.
I think rules is written. That's how it's meant to be done. I think I wouldn't be too much of a stickler on that. Me personally.
Fair.
But rules is written. Yes. You could have 1 temporary hit point, and this doesn't work. Put yourself in more danger so that you lose those temp hit points, I guess, is what I would say.
That's on you. Yeah, that's on you.
That's on you.
Need to get in there.
And you can do this a number of times equal to your con modifier, regaining on a long rest. So,
fair.
Just an incredible, absolutely incredible thing. It's a long rest, which makes a lot of sense. The only interesting thing about this ability is, I mean, it says that provided you don't already have temporary hit points and stuff like that. The only interesting thing about this is that because there's no action economy on this, it's almost like you're not choosing to do this or not do this. Do you know what I mean? It just says when your echo is destroyed by taking damage.
You can, but then it says you can gain. I think that implies choice.
Interesting. Okay, I agree. Dope. Okay, there we go. Then, I love the name of this next ability. At 18th level, you gain Legion of One. Now, when you use a bonus action, you get to create 2 echoes that can coexist.
Baller as hell.
So now all the stuff that you can do back at level 3, you can do it from either echo's position. So teleporting, doing those different attacks. It's doing your little extra attack with the what the hell is that called? Unleash Incarnation. All of it is good stuff. And just as a little bonus on top of everything else, when you roll initiative and you don't have any Unleash Incarnations, which again is that extra attack from your echo, you regain 1, which is nice.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah, that's a good ability. And like, especially once you get up to 18th level,
Yeah.
I know if I'm writing a campaign for 18th level, there's going to be long periods of no long rests.
Yeah, of trying
we are whittling down those resources.
Big
time. Having that, that's why they give stuff like this to these higher level characters, and like this, and like the monk gets something where they get a certain number of key points back after.
Yeah, sorcerers.
Whenever they sorcery points back. Yeah, it makes sense. And I love it. This is a really, really fun subclass. It's really broken.
Really, really fun. It's really fun. The ideas of like the different things you could do with this are just so cool. I just remember using so many different interesting things. Like, man, the versatility of like the strategy that you can do when you're thinking about how do I, use that teleport bonus action, and also like knowing that you have action surge in your back pocket at a certain point, like so fun, so fun. And it's very specific too, like that teleport ability uses your bonus action and 15 feet. So if there's a way for you to increase, whether it's the mobile feet or like boots of speed or something like that, 15 feet ends up being even less, because 90% of the time it's going to be half your movement, but the way it's worded, it's specifically 15 feet. Very cool. But that's the Echo Knight, very strong, coming at us from with Matthew Mercer and his team. Strong as hell.
Strong as hell. The next one is I don't know, it's okay. You get different die type of deal. It's the Psy Warrior. This is basically like a psychic kind of thing, fighter type of deal, using your brain. Yeah, you're basically attacking their brain as well as their body type of deal. So starting off at 3rd level, you'll get your psionic power, which is takes the form of a psionic energy die, which is another, to say equivalent again, like superiority die type of deal.
Yep.
You're going to use them to fuel your different powers and stuff, and then it'll either give you more damage or something along those lines. If you do get, it does level up as you level up. So you start off at a D6, and then at 5th level, it goes to a D8. 11th level, it goes to a 10, and then 17th, you get a D12. You do get all of your dice back when you do a long rest, and then as a bonus action, you can regain 1 psionic energy die, but you can only do that once per short or long rest. So you can kind of use a little bit of action economy to get some of these abilities back. You get, I think, all of these abilities that you can use. You just have to, obviously, you can only use 1 per turn. You get the protective field. When you or another creature you can see within 30 feet takes damage, you can use your reaction to spend a die and a psionic die to reduce the damage by the number rolled plus your intelligence modifier. So this is going to be another one of those intelligence-based fighter subclass things. I'm not crazy about mixing intelligence and martial stuff, just because it seems like a waste, especially if you're doing something like standard array. But I can see why you do it, and I can see, like, because like rogues do it too.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes from. Is like it's the Eldritch Knight also.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's kind of where it comes from. Is the idea of like they kind of were like, well, it would be weird if your psionic ability was tied into your strength, like physical strength. So it's like, well, we have to pick a mental stat. And Eldritch Knight already does int. So
right. So let's just keep the ball rolling there with intelligence. But yeah, that's my rant on intelligence, martial people. The next one you can get as far as abilities is the Psionic Strike. This is your basic once per turn after you hit a target within 30 feet. You can spend a psionic die and add it to the damage plus your intelligence modifier. Easy peasy, straight up just damage boost. The last one is telekinetic movement. This is you take an action and then you can target one large or smaller object or one willing creature other than yourself. If it's within 30 feet, you can move it to a 30-foot spot you can see. If it's tiny, you can move it to and from your hand. You can move it horizontally, vertically, either or, sideways, downways, upways, you name it, you can move them within that 30 feet. You can do this once per short or long rest, and then you'll just expend a psionic die to do it again.
Yeah, and the wording of that is really important because that same type of wording happens in a lot of future things. Where it's like, that telekinetic movement, you get one for free without using any psionic energy die.
Right.
And then you have to use, expend die to do it again.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of abilities are in the future.
Yeah, so this is really crazy. Cool. So it's an object that's large or smaller or one willing creature. So I was wondering why there wasn't a saving throw attached to this. Mm-hmm. So it's basically either an inanimate object that's large or smaller, which could be, pretty crazy, like, a 10-foot boulder or something.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the only kind of interesting wording on that, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the word loose is in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does say loose.
Yeah.
It's loose. It's a real loose object.
Which just, the way I mean, in my head, I think the reason they put that in there is because it's like, you might not be able to use that telekinetic movement to do move a lever or something, or like to push open a thing of like a portcullis. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking of. Like a large or smaller would be like a gate or something. You can't just like rip the gate off its hinges. It's got to be already loose and free form, like free out doing its thing.
Yeah.
So far, pretty cool stuff with this.
It is pretty cool. I do think it's pretty cool. I think the protective field at low levels, good. At higher levels, trash. Because you're just going to be taking like 25, 30 points of damage in a single hit, and it's like, oh yeah, reduce that by 5. And you're like, don't use your reaction for that, dog. Like save it for the
for-
psionic strikes, because
Right.
the die type gets bigger as you level up. It starts at a D6, by 17 hits a D12, and you get a decent number of dice.
Yeah.
Like you get way more dice than the
Twice
battle
your
master
proficiency
does.
bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
you
a
start
lot.
with 4 and you end with 12.
That's wild.
Yeah. It's decent. I think the first time I looked at this class, I didn't fully appreciate it. I used it in one of our multi-class mystery mashup episodes.
Right.
Check them out on the bonus action, link in the bio. But and I don't think I gave it the respect it deserves. As I was going through this today, I was like, oh, some of these abilities you get to just use it for free, and then you have to spend a die to do it again.
Yeah.
Oh, and that changes things. You'll see.
So moving on to level 7, you get a couple more psionic abilities. One of them is your psi-powered leap. As a bonus action, you can propel your body with your mind. You gain a flying speed equal to twice your walking speed until the end of your current turn. Absolutely wild. And you get that once for free. You can do this bonus action, but then you can't do it again until you finish a short or long rest, unless you expend a psionic die to do it again. So, as long as you got dice, you can fly. And not only can you fly, you are fast as boy.
Yeah.
Like, you're done. You're soaring.
It's very cool.
It's like
And
a free
it's flavored
dash
as a
or
leap,
like a bonus
which
action
is cool.
dash. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing you get at 7th level is the telekinetic thrust. When you deal damage to a target with your psionic strike, you can force the target to make a strength saving throw against your DC. It's 8 plus your proficiency and your intelligence modifier. If they fail, you can knock the target prone or move it up to 10 feet in any direction horizontally. You can't knock them 10 feet in the air, but you can move them 10 feet in a direction.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's really solid.
It just makes your psionic strike better, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're not spending
it's
extra dice.
It's just anytime you add that psionic strike to your attack, you're adding a saving throw to it, which is really cool.
Really, really cool. Because you're already that psionic strike
level
is
7. You've got
level 7,
6
D8.
uses.
Yeah, and you got a D8 that you're adding once per turn to a D8 plus your intelligence modifier.
Right.
So it's like that's a good amount of damage to add almost every turn. It's decent. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So those are, I think that's pretty much all of your psionic abilities that you're going to get. Everything else just kind of upgrades what you've already got. At 10th level, you get the guarded mind. You have resistance to psychic damage. If you start your turn charmed or frightened, you can spend an energy die to end every effect on yourself that's subjecting you to those conditions. So that's big.
That's really
if you've got multiple effects on you, whatever,
really good.
you can just, on your turn, when you start your turn, you can spend a die and boom, it's gone.
Nah.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I ain't scared of you. I ain't scared of shit. Yeah, so that's really cool. I honestly don't need to sit there and harp on how cool it is. It's a really good ability. At 15th level, you get the Bulwark of Force. You can shield yourself and others with this telekinetic force. And as a bonus action, you choose creatures, which can include you, within 30 feet. And then that's a number of creatures equal to your intelligence modifier. And then each creature is protected by half cover for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated. So what's that? A +2 to AC?
Yep.
So that's
Solid
awesome.
as hell.
And then this is another one where you get it once for free. And then if you want to do it again, it's a psionic die to do it again.
Yeah. That's
but yeah,
solid as hell, dude.
That's solid. A +2 to AC is no joke. Because,
Yeah.
I mean...
And at 15th level, no less, like you're already probably wearing like some of the best armor you'll have for the rest of the campaign. And like, and then just being like,
+2.
+2 to everybody.
Tack on a +5 if you've got shield. Not to mention all your other crazy stuff that you can do.
Not to mention if
that's
you
really
just get
good.
normal half cover.
Right. Right.
It's nuts. That's a really good ability. For a minute,
So
too.
what if-
and it's obviously
so
not
if-
concentration, so it's holy shit.
Yeah. So if something already has half cover, would this increase that or no?
Great question. I don't know what the rules as written would be about that because it's phrased as being half cover. That is
Right.
interesting. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It should, in my head, it should because
Just
this
bump it
is
up to
it's kind of like,
3/4.
remember when we did clerics and we did the Twilight domain and how you get half
Yeah.
cover and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that where we're calling it half cover, but it's not like they're actually hiding behind something. The way that it's described as is like psychic energy. You're giving them a force field essentially.
right.
So I don't know.
All right.
I think,
Fair enough.
Yeah, up to the DM maybe.
Yeah. All right. So the last thing that you get at level 18 is really, really dope in my mind. At 18th level, you become a telekinetic master. You can cast a telekinesis spell with no components, and your spell casting ability for that is intelligence. Obviously, everything else has been intelligence. It'd be dumb to change it now. It is, obviously a concentration spell. Each of the turns while you're concentrating on the spell, including when you cast it, you can still make one attack with a weapon as a bonus action. And then once you do this spell once for free, you can just spend another energy die to do it again later, unless you finish a long rest. So it's once per long rest, you can do it for free, and then psionic energy die to continue it. Still, telekinesis spell is legit. It's a really good spell. Yeah, it's a 5th level spell. Basically, you just pick stuff up and huck it with your mind.
Yeah, including creatures.
Including bad guys.
Yeah.
Or
And
good
the
guys.
And the fact that it also gives you this dual ability to still make some weapon attacks is insane. Really, really cool. And you just get that once per long rest. And then, I want to use it again. Spend 1 die. Which by 18th, you have 12.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool. It actually, like I said, I think this subclass is decent.
Yeah, it's kind of a sleeper. It doesn't. It seems,
but it's really good.
Yeah, I think the fact that you get so many psionic die is one of the biggest draws for me, because you're able to use these abilities a lot. You still have to obviously take into account, but it's no more than like key points. I mean, you're at 18th level. A monk's got 18 key points. You've got 12 freaking die.
Yeah.
You know,
it's huge.
So you're able to use this stuff almost as frequently as every other class is using their super abilities.
Yeah, and it really comes down to how, and I think the fun of this also is players like you and me is the strategy behind it, is like trying to figure out how important is it to use another die. Can I save one? Are we gonna have time for a rest after this? Because once you run out of die, they regain on a long rest, but then once per short or long rest, you can just regain a energy die as a bonus action. That's like a 3rd level thing. So you should always have one in your back pocket just in case. I would save that in case you really, really need it. But
it's
pretty
something
dope.
where it's like, okay, I'm gonna do a bonus action, get my psionic die back, and then as my action cast telekinesis.
Yeah,
Like that's but
I like this class a lot. I really do like it.
too.
And I like that so many of the abilities are like, you just get this ability. If you want to do it twice, then you have to use a dice. I was like, dang, that's crazy. Because if I just choose not to do it a second time, I can just load into my psionic strikes.
Which are also, once you hit 10th or 7th level, broken as hell.
Yeah, D8.
Those psionic strikes are broken as hell.
By 17th, you're rolling an extra D12. I can tell you, as like doing the Battle Master when I was doing Dorian Gray in our public domains game, I had his battles superiority die at a D10, and I reflavored his rapier to also be a D10. Dude, every attack I'm rolling 2 D10s. Like that was that's why I was able to do like, I was like, all right, 1 attack, that's 25 damage. I was like, geez Louise, this is insane.
Oh boy. It's rough.
And you get 3
It's
attacks
rough,
a
buddy.
turn. So yeah.
Yeah.
Psy Warrior.
Psy Warrior, it's a good one. There's a lot of good ones other than that stupid Banneret. I've not really...
Banneret is terrible.
The Banneret and the Arcane Archer I'm also very underwhelmed with.
Yeah.
As far as like things you can do, but these other ones that we're talking about, they're really cool. There's a lot of different things that you can do with these
and we're not even
fighters.
done yet. Because
I know, we still have 2 more.
The next is the Rune Knight. Now, the Rune Knight is based all around the magic of runes, and it's kind of geared towards giants and like giant culture and stuff like that, which I think is really, really fascinating. So, right at 3rd level, you're going to get bonus proficiencies. First, you gain proficiency in Smith's tools, and you can learn the giant language. So, you can read, write, and speak giant. So that makes a lot of sense, as you'll see in later abilities and stuff. This is based not just in runes, but also in giant stuff.
Yeah.
Then you get the big one, Rune Carver. Actually, there's 2 big ones. I don't know why I'm saying but one of the big ones is Rune Carver. You learn 2 magical runes. Each level up, like, so when you go to level 4 and level 5 as a fighter, you can replace them. So if like you picked one, if you picked like the fire giant rune and you're like, ugh, I'm never using this, then switch it out for the cloud rune, switch it out for the frost rune. Spoilers, all the runes are named after types of giants in the player's handbook, so take that for what it
ruined.
I know.
Ruined for me. I can't believe you broke that illusion.
Hey, don't worry, you get to learn extra runes later on. At 7th level, you can have 3, 10th, 4, and 15th, 5 different runes, of which there are only 6. So you just pick one that you hate and get rid of it. But then again, still, when you level up, you can still switch them in and out. So try them all. Now, after a long rest, you get to touch a number of objects equal to the number of runes that you know, and you inscribe a rune. That rune remains until a long rest, and it is important to know that an object can only have 1 rune at a time. There's a little bit of a list of like what counts. Like, for example, there's like the wording on it is like the object must be a weapon, a suit of armor, a shield, a piece of jewelry, something else you can wear or hold in your hand. So like technically you can't just cast a rune on like a tree. That's just like chilling in a forest. But like, why would you anyway? So I don't know. But that stipulation is there. Now, some runes have level prerequisites. There are a couple that you can only do at level 7 or higher. And if a rune has a saving throw, it is DC equals 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your constitution modifier. So we're going back to con for the Rune Knight. Now, like I said, there are 6. The way all of the runes work is they give you a static effect that you just have all the time. So, for example, for the Cloud rune, while you're wearing or carrying an object inscribed with that rune, you have advantage on sleight of hand checks and deception checks. You just have that. Fire rune, while you're holding that, your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check you use that uses a tool proficiency. Frost rune, animal handling and intimidation checks, right? So like each one gives you a couple static things, which is so cool for out of combat. Love to make the fighter have more mechanics outside of combat. That's dope. But then in addition to those like static things, each rune also gives you something that you can evoke once. So for the Cloud rune, anytime that you or a creature that you can see within 30 feet is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to invoke the rune and choose a different creature within 30 feet of you other than the attacker, and the chosen creature becomes the target of the attack using the same roll. This magic can transfer the attack's effects regardless of the attack's range. So even if it's only 5 foot range, you can pick a creature that's 30 feet. So yeah, and they can be attacking friends and stuff. Once you invoke this rune, you can't do so again until a short or a long rest. So it's just each one. So the fire one has a different one. It does extra fire damage. Frost does you for 10 minutes you gain a +2 on all ability checks that use strength or con. Now so they're all little different ones.
Now I'm reading the text on this rune carver thing. It doesn't really say that you have to be the one using the rune.
No.
You can put this on your allies' armor or shields or jewelry and give it just pass them around.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's dope
That's
as
so
hell.
cool.
It's so cool. It's so cool. And we've just
Oh
started.
my god.
And we've
I
just started.
know.
So, check out the Wikidot. Check out wherever you're going to find the Rune Knight. It is available in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. That's where this subclass
There
comes
are a
from.
whole bunch of really cool runes. We don't have time to go over them all.
Yeah, there's 7. They have a bunch of little abilities and stuff like that, but they're all very, very cool. So,
All right.
you also get at 3rd level. Again, this is all just 3rd level. You get Giant's
Crazy.
Might. Giant's Might bonus action to gain the following benefits for 1 minute. You become large, along with anything you're wearing, as long as you have the size to become large. For example, you can't be in a cramped little room, otherwise it'll just fail. So you do need the space, but as long as you do, you can become large. You get advantage on strength checks and saving throws while you're in this Giant's Might form, and your weapon and unarmed strikes deal an extra 1d6 once per turn.
So this is basically enlarge
Plus
from the
rage.
enlarge reduce spell.
Kind of. Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Enlarge. The only difference is that enlarge, I think, is a 1d4,
Right. Yeah, so it's a little bit better. And
a little
also,
bit better.
it's not a spell.
and it's not a spell. Absolutely. Yeah, so cool. And you get to do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus that recharge on a long rest.
I think we played with somebody, in one of our
yes.
campaigns,
Yeah.
who was like a gnome
It was
or
Nicole. Yeah.
And she was like a gnome or a dwarf or something,
Yeah, she was a gnome
And
who was raised by
lived-
Goliaths.
raised by Goliath. So
Yeah.
every time she used this Giant's Might thing, she
become
just bonus action
large.
went from being a small creature to a large creature, just skipping over medium entirely.
Yeah, because the way it's
So
worded
funny.
is, if you are smaller than large, you become large.
Right.
So yeah, it's not like you increase one size, which technically another reason this is better than enlarge / reduce.
Yeah, because enlarge is just
One
you
size
you
bigger.
gain
Yeah.
one size. Yeah.
So cool. So that's all at 3rd level. Insane.
Hell yeah.
7th level, Runic Shield. When another creature you can see within 60 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to force the attacker to re-roll that d20 and use a new roll.
Silver barbs.
Practically a silvery barbs, except that they have to use the new roll.
Right.
I
Okay.
only bring
Yeah,
that up
yeah,
because
yeah.
as a DM, there are times where you're like, okay, does a 19 hit? And they're like, yeah, it hits, silvery barbs. And you're like, ooh, okay. The new roll's a nat 20.
Rough.
Like,
yeah.
during-
yeah.
yeah,
You also
during-
don't give out advantage with it.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it is crazy.
No, it's I mean, still forcing rerolls is very handy.
Very,
I mean-
very handy. I'm just saying, there's a very
It's
tiny
not as
percentage
great
where you're like, fuck.
Of times where you like,
it is
actually, I
now a nat
rolled
20.
higher.
Yeah.
It is now a crit. Yeah.
You can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, regain on a long rest. Then, 10th level, you get Great Structure. This is really funny because you roll 3d4 and you just grow that many inches permanently. So that's just really fun. I think that's
so
cute.
funny.
It kind of plays
Yep.
into the idea of being a giant. Really fun. And then the extra damage that you can do from your Giant's Might goes from a d6 to a d8.
Nice.
That makes sense. It improves. Love it. Then at 15th level, Master of Runes. Now, all of those runes, like I mentioned before, you get this little ability that recharges on a short or a long rest where you can invoke it. Now you get to invoke it twice. So
Hell yeah.
twice is good. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
Then at 18th level, we get Runic Juggernaut. Your Giant's Might dice becomes a d10, upgrading
yeah.
once again. The size goes from large to huge.
Amazing.
Very fun. And your reach increases by 5 feet.
Amazing. While you're huge sized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. While you are that size, your reach increases by 5 feet.
Very, very cool.
So yeah, just makes all your abilities a
Yeah.
little bit better. But the
I
runes
really
are really
love
cool.
The runes, because you can pass them out. I really love being able to kind of not be, because like technically these all have action economy tied to them, or something along those lines. Spreading it out
Yeah.
means that these abilities are getting used a lot more frequently.
Yes, absolutely. But it is really powerful. I mean, like at 7th, it's one of the prerequisite ones, but the Hill Giant rune, you use a bonus action and now you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing for 1 minute.
Crazy.
So that's powerful as hell. And you can choose who to give that to in the party, if not yourself. And technically there is nothing to say that you can't stack them also. You just can't put them on the same object. But you could put a hill rune on your armor and then put, a storm rune on your sword and then put a fucking fire rune on your ring. Like, you can
absolutely.
stack
You
them
can
on one person.
keep them all yourself.
Yes, but you could share the love.
Share the love. Everybody wants some cool runes, man. And I like that the whole idea of runes is really keeping with the kind of traditional thought of giants, because like giants are largely from Norse mythology, where runes are such a huge part of that culture. Yeah.
Very cool.
But yeah, giants are cool. The runic knight, very, very cool.
Very cool.
We got one left. We are on our last. Let's bring it home. The last one is the samurai, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but I'm a huge fan of Eastern culture. I really love the samurai. This is just a fun vibes wise for me. Starting at 3rd level for the samurai, you're going to get proficiency in either history, insight, performance, or persuasion, or you can choose one language, however you want to do that. Proficiency wise, whatever. Like the samurai are kind of a more educated class than the common people, just in general. You also get the fighting spirit feat. As a bonus action, you can give yourself advantage on all weapon rolls until the end of your current turn. You gain 5 temp HP, and that increases at later levels. At 10th level, you'll get 10. At 15th level, you get 15. And you can use this up to 3 times per long rest. That's crazy. Advantage on all weapon rolls, which, as we all know, fighter gets a million goddamn weapon rolls every turn, especially at high levels.
Yeah, which would include like the action surges, and if you're hasted or whatever, like all that gets wrapped up into it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really like that it's not like, oh yeah, it's a bonus action. You get advantage on your next hit. No. This is everything for the rest of your turn. All of your not everything, but all of your weapon rolls for the rest of your turn. Amazing.
It's really, really cool.
Yep. At 7th level, you get the elegant courtier feat. Again, this is kind of leaning to that more refined sophistication of the samurai. When you make a persuasion check, you can add your wisdom to that check. You're proficient in wisdom saving throws. If you're already proficient in wisdom saving throws, you can gain proficiency in either intelligence or charisma saves instead. Very, very cool. This is obviously taking into account your multi-classing, and I think there's probably some feats that give you proficiency in certain saving throws.
Yeah, resilient, I think is the big one.
So, this will definitely help you out on that track. Very, very cool. Again, this is just like that kind of the poet knight kind of vibes a little bit of being very well-spoken type of person. Moving on to 10th level. If you roll initiative and you have no uses of your fighting spirit, you get 1 back. Very dope. At 15th level, you get the rapid strike feat. If you take the attack action and you have advantage on the attack roll, like if you're using your fighting spirit or maybe flanking or something like that, you can give up the advantage for an additional weapon attack. So hold on a second. You take the attack action and you've got fighting spirit active. At 15th level, we're rocking like 4 attacks per turn, something like that.
3
attacks per turn. So you've advantage on all 3 of those attacks. Oh, you can do it once per turn. Damn. I was about to say you could make it 6 attacks, but no, you could turn one of those attacks. You can give up your advantage on. It doesn't, because you're still going to get advantage on 3 attacks. You can just give up advantage on the first attack and then take 2 attacks.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, but what's keeping you? This is basically just it says you can give up your advantage for an additional weapon attack. This attack that you're taking, though, is technically another weapon attack. So would your fighting spirit still apply to this new attack? So
No, I don't think so. I think it's explicitly telling you that you're choosing between getting the advantage or getting the extra attack. I don't think it's even taking fighting spirit into account. I don't know if those things are like, maybe that could be an incredible oversight that we found, that the original people didn't like intend, for all we know, because fighting spirit is just explicitly
really just
advantage on all attack rolls, and rapid strike is, if you take the attack action on your turn and you have advantage on an attack roll, then you can forego the advantage on that roll and make an additional weapon attack against that target as part of the same action. You can do more than once per turn. But
it's still another weapon attack. So like you just get one more attack without advantage, is what I'm reading that as.
Yeah, that's how I'm reading it too.
So you'll still get your 3 advantaged attacks, and you just have one that doesn't have advantage.
That's how I think it's supposed to be down. If you're doubling, if you have the fighting spirit thing active, then yes, that's how I would read it.
Right. Hell yeah.
But yeah,
that's really cool. I mean,
that's
the traditional anime, like walking up to some dude and then you see all the like lines appear in front of him.
Yeah, exactly.
And then blood.
Accuracy for swiftness.
Yes,
I like it.
Yeah. And finally, for the samurai at 18th level, you get strength before death. If you take damage that reduces you to no hit points, you can use your reaction to delay falling unconscious and immediately take an extra turn. If you're at 0 hit points during that extra turn, damage still causes those death save fails as normal. And when your extra turn fails, you fall unconscious if you're still at 0 hit points. You can do this once per long rest.
Yeah, that's dope as hell.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's really so insane. Cool. So you get this extra turn that you get to take immediately. So this is going to be, obviously, if you're taking damage that's reducing you to 0 hit points, unless you're planning it with your teammates, this is an enemy's turn and you get to interrupt their turn now and take a whole turn.
Yeah, I think so. Like,
this might be another situation where turn.
Yeah, this might be another situation where the wording isn't what they intended, but so it's because they might have intended that like immediately means as soon as this monster's done, you get to go, like no matter where you are in initiative. But that's like where I'm just guessing what they might have meant as opposed to what the wording says. Because you're right, the wording says immediately. So that would tell me that it does stop this person's turn and then you go.
So I'm just thinking in my head, the way that we do health potions at our table, it's an action to do full dice or bonus action to do like roll for it. This technically, you could go down to 0 hit points, but okay, I'm going to take my reaction to take an extra turn. I'm going to use my whole action to down the supreme healing potion. Bam, that's 70 HP. Let's go.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's so super possible.
That's kind of the thought process behind it, which is pretty dope. Once per long rest, definitely needed to balance this out. Very, very cool ability though. There's another subclass. It's the one of the barbarian subclasses, I think, that lets you just never die. Yeah, when you're just I'm so mad I will not fall unconscious.
Insane. It's very, very
I love
cool.
that ability. I love this whole class. It's so nice.
It is. It's really, really cool. It's really cool. I like it a lot. I mean, I like all of them for the most part. I mean, obviously, Echo Knight is forever going to be my favorite out of all of these.
Echo Knight's really broken.
I like the idea of playing. I like the role-playing interests me so much in technically playing 2 characters.
Right.
I just love that idea so much. It would be a conversation that I have to have with the DM because there's a part of me that's like, I want to play both characters. Like I wouldn't unless the DM had a really interesting idea, I wouldn't be as interested if the DM was like, I'll play your Echo. It's like, I'm less interested.
No, you
now.
won't.
Yeah,
No,
I'm not
you
as
won't.
interested actually now. But unless they had a really cool idea or like there was a reason for it, like the way that Murph and Jake do it in Eldermore,
Right.
in not another D&D podcast, is really good. It works out great.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it all depends on how you do it. And definitely check out the description and everything like that, because we got so many cool actual plays coming up or in the process right now and stuff. And I think I can't remember. I think it's November is National Dairy Month. Ugh, it might be.
National Dairy Month.
Yeah. Bing it. I just made that up. Big Milk.
Okay.
What's up, baby?
Yeah. Okay. So that's all we can get into this time. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Soyouwannabeadm, or you can ask us a question at soyouwannabeadm@gmail.com. If you like the episode, don't forget to give us 5 stars in a review wherever you found us, and check out our Patreon and our Twitch pages with the link in the description. Join us next time for more Dungeon Master tips and tricks.
Bye.
See you.
And now I have the honor of giving a shout out to the members of our Patreon gang. Lee, we can't wait to roll dice with you. Nub Muffins, may Paylor's light shine upon you. And there's Vanessa D, Talk Screen, and Tappy. If you want a shout out, join the Adult or Ancient Dragon gangs on Patreon. Tune in next time for more tips and tricks from So You Wanna Be a DM.